Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we're summarizing the 13th episode from Season 3 of the Sopranos series titled Army of One. The episode first aired on May 20th, 2001. In the beginning, we see AJ and one of his friends, Egan, up to no good yet again. The two wait until the school closes to sneak in to change their grades. They sneak into a classroom and forge passing scores on an exam they both failed. When the dean of Verbunde finds out, he finds them almost immediately. The dean is able to track them down because their newly corrected exams are the only two that are identical. He then scares them by claiming their DNA was discovered in the boiler room scene before expelling them from Verbunde. Egan begins to cry while AJ refuses to accept any of the blame. As we catch up with Jackie Jr., he is living in a Boonton housing project with a young father and his daughter. The man's daughter calls Jackie Mr. X because Jackie refuses to reveal his real name. Despite the father's willingness to teach Jackie how to play chess, Jackie grows agitated and abandons the game altogether. This is a symbolic scene that highlights Jackie's inability and unwillingness toward understanding the rules of the criminal game he is now in. Meanwhile, Jackie's location is quickly discovered by Ralph's crew. Since Tony ordered Ralph to deal with Jackie directly, any delays or even letting the kids survive would lessen Ralphie's respect. Jackie then calls Tony to beg for his life. Tony, of course, silences Jackie when he calls him at home. Jackie is crying and pleading for forgiveness. Following this tense encounter, Tony summons Ralph and demands that he make a decision as quickly as possible. Ralph is the one who makes the decision, of course, and sends Vito Spatafor to gun down Jackie. Later on, Paulie informs Tony that Carmela just called crying on the phone. Tony assumes she has just learned of Jackie Jr.'s death, but is taken aback when he learns that AJ has been expelled from his school. Tony loses his temper at home and goes off on a rant. Tony says that he will send AJ to a military academy. AJ disrespects Tony by backtalking him, and Tony strikes him. Carmela is appalled by this, despite her anger toward AJ. Later on, when they are seated at their table reviewing military school brochures, we notice only Tony is excited about the idea. Carmela then receives a phone call informing her that Jackie Jr. has died. AJ and Carmela are blown away by this news. Tony pretends to be surprised and uses the death of Jackie as a tool to warn AJ about the outcomes of his reckless actions. Later on, AJ calls Meadow and informs her of the news, but the conversation gets diverted when they start talking about AJ being expelled. Meadow tells AJ that it is impossible for the school to have found his DNA so quickly, as DNA results take time to return from a lab. When AJ finally gets around to tell Meadow that Jackie is dead, Meadow is immediately stunned and drops the phone. Remember, I am summarizing the entire series, so subscribe and click on the notification bell to be reminded when I upload the next episode. Also, let me know what your favorite TV, show, and movie is so I can summarize it in the future. Doing these two things helps my channel out tremendously. Thank you for your support. Marianucci, Paulie's mother, is moved to Green Grove, the same retirement community where Tony had placed Livia. Marianucci, a wonderful old lady, is overcome with emotion by her son's goodwill in putting her in such a nice place to live. However, the cost of maintaining her there is putting a strain on Paulie financially. He requests a meeting with Tony and Ralph, seeking a larger share of a lucrative job Ralph completed. Paulie feels he is owed a larger share because the total earnings were based on a tip Paulie gave Ralph. But Tony agrees to make Ralph give Paulie a fourth of what he originally requested. The FBI mobilizes against the Sopranos once more. As Junior's cancer falls into remission, he is deemed physically fit to stand for the RICO trial. The FBI agents need a new wire near Tony, especially after the death of Salvatore Bompensero and Meadow having taken the lamp made by the FBI to Columbia University. Christopher is rising through the Soprano family ranks and is seen by Agent Harris as a promising leader. The agents see Adriana as the weakest link to Christopher, who would then link them to Tony. They send Deborah Cicerone, an undercover FBI agent, to act as an average fellow Jersey girl. Deborah is ordered to become friends with Adriana as a way of getting to Christopher. As AJ's next school, Tony chooses the Hudson Military Institute. When AJ interacts with Major Swingley, the institute's leader, he is completely overwhelmed by the level of discipline Swingley guarantees he would endure. After that, Swingley talks to Tony and Carmela. Tony is impressed by his manly and straight shooting demeanor, but Carmela is hesitant to send AJ to a military academy because she fears he would be taught to kill. Tony and Carmela have a heated disagreement about the matter that night, and they end up sleeping in separate rooms, while AJ blocks out their fighting with his headphones. Jackie Jr.'s wake is held the next day, and the family attends. Meadow expresses her grief openly. However, Carmela is disturbed by the sight of Jackie Jr., especially since he isn't that much older than AJ. Carmela agrees with Tony's decision to send AJ off to a military academy that night as well. When Meadow suggests that Jackie's death was caused by a mafia-related hit, Carmela insists that Jackie Jr. actually killed himself. Jackie is laid to rest with his mother Rosalie sobbing in agony during the service. We also see a brief sting operation being conducted on the Soprano crime family due to their sports gambling business. Silvio and Christopher are arrested, Paulie flees, and a paranoid Junior makes a disturbance while he escapes. Meadow has a drink with Kelly, Jackie's sister. Meadow gets defensive when Kelly shows suspicion about the allegation that Jackie committed suicide, while the police investigation reports described a heavy-set white man being the murderer. AJ's future appears to be set in stone now that his parents are on board with sending him to the institute. He reluctantly puts on Hudson's uniform, but despite Tony and Carmela's assurances that it will be a wonderful experience, AJ has an anxiety attack and falls to the ground. Later on, Tony speaks with Dr. Melfi about AJ's panic attacks. Tony explains that when AJ last had a panic attack on the football field of Verbunde, he thought it was due to dehydration. When Melfi tries to guide Tony toward talking about his feelings, Tony only expresses his disappointment. Tony explains to Melfi that he believed he could help save AJ by sending him to military school. Tony understands this is no longer a possibility due to AJ's panic attacks. Following the funeral, multiple Soprano family members and associates gather at Vesuvio's for a meal. Outside, Paulie encounters Johnny Sack, and he is dissatisfied with how Tony has been treating him. Paulie promises to provide John with information about the Soprano crime family. Christopher and Silvio also bail out of jail and show up at the meeting. Meadow mocks Junior and tosses a piece of bread at him when he attempts to sing after a few drinks. Tony brings her outside and demands to know why she is behaving so badly, to which she responds by calling the event at Vesuvio's nonsense. When Tony re-enters Vesuvio's, we see Junior singing Core Ingrato. That was episode 39, titled Army of One. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. If you enjoyed this summary, consider clicking like. It goes a long way toward helping me grow this channel. I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.
If there's ever anything I can do, anything, you shouldn't hesitate.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.